All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I hope you had a great weekend. I sure did, but it was a back to school weekend for the kids. So give me like a half an hour to an hour to talk about what we got to talk about, and we'll discuss what we're going to do for book club. If you are a local supporter, on locals right now is a whether or not you can do a book club tonight. Just put a yes or no if you're a regular, specifically if you're a regular, because I don't want you guys to miss out on the book club. Okay, don't forget, if you like the videos, to share the videos, share them far and wide. Subscribe. The best place to follow us, of course, is right below there, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, is Trump stronger than he's ever been? Well, we're going to find out. There's going to be some tests. He has his nominees for his cabinet that face Senate confirmation. Of course, they'll go through the committee first, the committee process first. And then we have a ton of other news because we have Vance that faces criticism, although how big of criticism it is yet, I don't know. I threw him a little bit of a lifeline. Let's see if he takes it. Okay. Just because regardless of whether or not, like what party you support or not, like JD Vance, I mean, I know JD, he's a good guy. He's a good dude. He'll listen if you tell him he's wrong. Okay. Like, or if you just tell him, maybe you said this wrong, you better clean it up. Like, he'll listen. But we have to discuss what he was saying because that's just a no-go. It's a no-go. I mean, look, folks, this is where I'm going to be from now on. If I research something and you cross the people that I talk to, I'm going to cross you. All right. I'm going to not go after, but I'm going to try to fix it. Let me put it that way, because I'm tired of my job being the constant listening of the American public lamenting over a government that doesn't listen to them. Donald Trump was most definitely elected because they were tired of people not listening. They were tired of, it's numerous things here. The Trump first win was the American public saying, I'm sick of it. Not even Obama could help us. I just want somebody to break it. But they didn't know what that meant. They didn't understand what break it really meant. How much turmoil and instability and volatility comes along with breaking a political status quo, disrupting the ruling class. Like, they don't know what comes along with that. They never had to deal with it before. Americans allowed their government to assassinate, to execute their elected president and didn't do a damn thing about it. Right? The 60s incoming, post-60s, incoming liberal class of politicians that included Nancy Pelosi is not upsetting the status quo. Bringing a billionaire businessman to DC who has no political IOUs attached to him is potentially breaking the status quo. And the status quo flipped the hell out. And they did everything in their power to make sure they could oppose him. They could survive him. And they did. But for 4 years, it all just came out. And Biden was just such a bad steward. And it's not even Biden. Biden's senile. He's gone. He's been gone. He was gone when he was gone when they presented you with him in 2020. I saw it with my own eyes. I will never forget with Wilmington, Delaware. This must have been before they started feeding him all the drugs. I'm serious. They brought this man out of the building. One woman under his arm, one guy on the other side under his other arm, and him doing the geriatric shuffle with his head forward like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Like, the guy couldn't even walk, let alone speak. They must have got him some of that good stuff, the same thing they shot Hitler in the ass with every morning to get him up and moving. And because it just wasn't sustainable to present this to the public over 4 years and then hide him while his team did what they did, it's just not sustainable. It came out. And of course, it came out in spectacular fashion for those who still denied it in front of the entire world during the presidential debate. A true emperor has no closed moment. And the American public elected Donald Trump to come back as a I hate they want to use words like retribution. See, I want to use words like justice, like righting a wrong. Whether you like him or not, the man was removed from office under false pretenses and shady ass circumstances. And part of those shady circumstances led to events that JD Vance commented on. But before we do that, let's have a lighthearted moment and all laugh at why the American public was not going to tolerate 4 more years of a Democratic president after being lied to this badly. Folks, no wonder our country was being invaded through the U.S. southern border and Donald Trump was being shot because apparently Joe Biden sent the Secret Service to the border. Okay? So I guess Secret Service agents were doing Border Patrol's job, and Border Patrol job was doing the Secret Service job, and that's why Donald Trump was nearly killed, and this country was invaded over the course of 4 years. Go. One day I'm going to do this update.
Let's get something in mind about the border. When I became president, the numbers came way down, number one. Number two.
Number one, the numbers did not come way down. And yes, Colby, it is called a fraud. You're right. They perpetrated a fraud on the American public. Absolutely. 100%. False pretenses, a fraud, whatever you want to call it. Also, I don't know that we're going to have a time to talk about it, but you did, Colby, just remind me of the lawsuit from the Federalists, which I would very much like to discuss. I just don't know if I'm going to have time or not. You have all of these, like the Trust Project, the Trust Initiative, whatever it's called. And then you have the company. Well, it was supposed to be a watchdog of fake news, which is now being sued by the Federalists because they weren't a watchdog at all. They were a censor. And they used the Washington Examiner as a token website to say, well, we still partner with conservatives. It's an absolute joke. Everyone knows it's like, grab the most never Trump thing you can and then pretend it's conservative, right? So, but in any event, getting back to it, if those things were not frauds, and they were, and dumbass I after 2016 signed up for the Trust Initiative. I kid you not. We did the online news organization and everything, and we did the Trust Project. We thought that maybe this is a legitimate effort to like screen out bad actors, or just to let people know who, not screen them out, but like if Russia television really is pushing propaganda and they don't follow the Trust Initiative guidelines, which are simple things. Where do you get your money from? What's your standards? We did all of that. We developed the structural data plugin that is used for Google to read the websites of most WordPress-based websites that are indexed by the Google News aggregate. And it was a total scam. A total fraud. And if all of that didn't happen, then you would never see, like, Biden, even as senile as he is, he would never have been able to get away with saying things like this. Like, before we move on to number 2, he said, number 1, the numbers went way down. Let's get something straight. The numbers went way down. Folks, is there any serious person out there who would argue that the numbers went down at the southern border when Joe Biden became president? The only numbers that went down was the number of people caught and detained between what are called ports of entry. In other words, those attempting to sneak in. During Donald Trump, apprehensions went way up between ports of entry because they were stopping people from doing that. And what else went up, by the way? Seizures of fentanyl, human trafficking, etc., attempts at human trafficking, etc., etc. The only thing that went down when Joe Biden became president was fentanyl seizures. The number of people that came across has been staggering, to the point where even the New York Times did an article not 2 months ago about how it not only rivals, but surpasses the period in American history when we opened the door on the West and East Coast, Ellis Island, San Francisco. You had the Asian immigration out west to help build the railroad and do everything else that Americans were able to do in the old, the pioneer of the Wild West. We had immigration on the Eastern Coast filling, urban areas like New York that would later migrate to Chicago and other places. Italians, Irish, you name it, Russians, Poles. We opened the door. Those boys got off the boat. They got a union uniform slapped on them. A bowl of soup, here's your boarding house. 2 days you ship out and your girl goes to the chicken plucking farm, dude. Come on. We had the door open. And as not just raw numbers, but as percentages of the domestic population. This was disgusting compared to even that period. 4 years. Let's go on to number 2.
We had a circumstance where I pushed very hard for a bipartisan agreement to put more people on the border, more Secret Service agents. And guess what?
Oh, no wonder. Guess what? Uncle Joe, God, look at that. Did I not just pause on the most creeper image ever? Is that somebody's going to text me later and someone's going to say, see, Rich, I told you he's a robot. Come on, man. He's a silicon AI, dude. I don't know. Get out of here with that. But the man is like an absolute joke. This is an absolute joke.
He's on the phone saying, don't do it. Don't do it. Make me look bad.
He's talking about Trump. He's talking about Trump opposing, of course, the effort that Democrats had put forward to secure the border. They knew, I remember like it was yesterday during the election, going on Sean Parnell maybe a week or two before they completely changed course. And Sean said, Rich, I've run against these people. I am telling you, they are going to do a complete reversal, a complete 180 on illegal immigration. And they are going to try to paint it as they are the hardliners on border security. And it's like insane when you think about it, when you like make that suggestion. But if you're like Sean, who has mixed it up with them yourself, or me, who's just observed it all for many, many years, that was never crazy. Of course, they were going to try that. And they put forward this bill, which has absolutely nothing to do to address the cause and and not only the cause, like the root causes, but the current problems that are making these strains on our social systems, and just a threat to our identity as a nation. You just cannot. I mean, that's just a fact. It's a fact. But in any event, Trump was kind of instrumental in making sure Republicans didn't support it, but it's not because, I mean, I guess you don't want Democrats to solve the problem in an election year. I mean, you kind of be naive to say anybody would, but the bill didn't solve anything. It didn't actually solve anything. So he's referring to Trump using his political clout to make sure that bill went nowhere with Mike Johnson. All right. And yeah, I mean, that's true. And so what? So what? All right. So there you have it. Let's start off that with a little bit of a joke. I mean, it's not a joke, though. It's not funny, is it? It's really not funny. He sent Secret Service to the border. Maybe that's where they were instead of checking the top of the damn roof. The only roof with the direct line of sight to the President of the United States. Maybe that's why. And we're in the wrong damn state. They weren't even in Butler. They were at the border, according to Joe Biden. I mean, it's funny, but it's really not, is it? I mean, it's really not. All right, look, so here's the schedule today. I really want to get reaccustomed with this. God, I myself have not perused these sites. And since Joe Biden was elected and then taking office, of course, even before that, Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera. I always do this. I'm going to show you because a lot of people don't. And you should. The tools are there for you and you should use them. Okay. But I'm going to show you the schedule, what we can expect this week. But when you see it, you'll see why I was talking about last week, beginning something called between the numbers. So like we're going to do these pop-in quick videos. We're going to take a look at how these confirmation hearings are going, how we think they're going politically. Is Trump spending a lot of capital? What does the American public think? Because as of right now, if you go and look at our last poll, and I suppose I can get that link to send out to those who have not, you will see that the public very much trusts Donald Trump to pick his cabinet. They largely, not largely, like broadly, approve of what he is doing, and they want, they elected him, so he is entitled to his cabinet. We will see whether or not the Senate comprehends that. Democrats are going to be in some they're going to be in some trouble here, because Trump and Fetterman did meet at Mar-a-Lago, as we discussed was coming on Friday. And apparently it went really well. And Trump has said bad things about Fetterman. Fetterman said bad things about Trump. But I think the two of them have something in common. Because I'm not this cynical on Fetterman. Do I trust the guy? Absolutely not. I don't trust politicians. I don't. But I think they have this in common. And Trump made a comment and he said, the guy's not ideological. He's all about common sense. That is Donald Trump. In 2016, he called it common sense conservatism. He was mocking Bush's compassionate conservatism during speech at CPAC. And he said, it's freaking jokes, not compassionate to everybody. And they're like, well, what are you? I said, I'm common sense conservative. Conservatism is common sense. So if it makes sense, I'm for it. He's not a particularly ideological or rigidly ideological person. And apparently neither is John Fetterman. A lot of the stuff he apparently was saying before to get elected, to get his base out against Mehmet Oz, was BS. Shocker, politicians lie. He actually doesn't think illegal immigration is a smart move. He doesn't think it's unreasonable to deport people who are here illegally. He doesn't think that it's unreasonable to combat illegal immigration. And I think you're going to see John Fetterman split on a couple of these votes. I'm going to say this right now. I'm telling you, whether he's being earnest or not is totally irrelevant. If Democrats lose a single vote, they are going to look awful, attempting to hold up the first female director of national intelligence. We've had a female CIA director, but we have never had a female director of national intelligence. They're going to look incredibly stupid holding up somebody like Pete Hegseth, who, regardless of the smears, is a guy who lived his life and achieved what he achieved based on meritocracy, not, artificial aristocracy. And if Fetterman pieces out, it's also going to be hard for Susan Collins and even Lisa Murkowski, let alone Joni Ernst. She'll cave. She's what you know what? I'll leave it at that. What a disappointment. She turned into be a typical Washington creature. Forget about when, whichever the way the wind blows. I would choose to make a much more crude analogy, but I'm not going to. Last time I was hard on Joni, I got like 3 phone calls. I don't even know the woman well like that. I don't know her, but apparently others do. Oh, I got the wrong impression. Yeah, prove it. Can I go watch my daughter dance now? Are you done wasting my time? Prove it. Call me back when there's something worth my time. She is, man. She's like a McConnell shadow. I'm looking at YouTube and locals, and they're on basically the same page. Like a female version shadowing. Like, you ever see the show Silo? The IT shadow? It's like that creepy dude until That's right. All right, let's look at it. Let's look at the schedule and see. We got a very busy week. So like I was saying, that's why we're talking about like having these short little breaks in between, called between the numbers, because there's so much that we're going to have hit us. It's going to be very difficult by Wednesday, for instance, to come on and spend 20 minutes going over what the hell happened on the Veterans Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, and the Energy and Natural Resources Committees when we already have the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee hearing going on. So I'm not talking about long, big productions here. I'm talking about let's dip in maybe. Let's take a look at it after even. Maybe it's even after the hearing. So let's say, what do you think happened here? What was the significance of this? And, if Trump winds up, guys, getting this cabinet, like run right through, and I think Pete Hegseth is the line in the sand, in my opinion. If he winds up steamrolling this stuff, then I think you have to start to make the argument that Trump really is, as some, there were articles, there was commentary this weekend, damn, Donald Trump's the strongest he's ever been. I mean, duh. The only question is how sustainable it is. And he is, because of the simple fact that we really brought up first. He's popular. I know it's like such a simple thing, but it's a profound turn of events, a profound result in the polling. Like, he has never been this popular. And right now, the guy is popular. Akin to other presidents that started out in a very good position. You know what? We should do Barack Obama's favorability next time. I wonder if Barack Obama is viewed as favorable as Donald Trump. And boy, that was a funny little audio, wasn't it? I'm not going to post it. It's a joke. It's been done to death by now, but there is something to it. It's Trump talking with Obama. What was the truth of it? What really happened during the phone call? It's been done to death, but there is some measure of truth here. And I wouldn't be surprised if it actually went somewhat like that on the call, but there's some element of truth here, because I think you're seeing people like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, John Fetterman, like people who they're no dummies. Like, I'm not talking about book smarts. I'm talking about, Obama's lost his touch, with the American public, but maybe he's starting to like come back down to planet Earth and out of Martha's Vineyard a little bit. But, like Joe Biden was Uncle Joe Biden. Like, these people are actually working with Donald Trump and affording him a courtesy that he was never afforded before. Not only that, I mean, take this, for example. Trump's envoy, his special envoy, is involved in the talks and decision-making about Iran and what's going on with Iran right now. Apparently, he was, from what I understand, crucial in reversing a decision to take action against Iran. And Iran is very weak right now because Biden, I keep saying Biden as if Biden's really involved, but they're starting to do things like Trump would do them anyway, and in fact did do them. No more special exemptions for allies who want to buy oil from them. Like the Biden handlers themselves, right, Amari? The Biden handlers themselves are like, you know what? Let's give them a role. I think they want to appear to be mature, reasonable. And maybe that's all it turns out to be with Fetterman too. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, it's significant that they are doing it. All right. So look at this hell of a schedule this week. Okay. So tomorrow, 9 a.m. Maybe we could do something around noon or something. 9 a.m. when there's a hearing to examine the expected nomination of Douglas A. Collins, which was, of course, a former congressman from Georgia, to be the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Doug Collins should be an easy throat. There should be absolutely no objection to Doug Collins, which is probably why you got to like the schedule if you're Donald Trump. Why? Because you want some easy stuff to get thrown through here. The Armed Services Committee, 30 minutes later. They will be obviously convening to examine the expected nomination of Pete Hegseth, or Peter B. Hegseth, to be the Secretary of Defense. This one is the battle. This one will be the one we focus on, obviously, more. And it will not be one day. This will be going over the course. This will be expected to be a fight, although it does sound like Pete has the votes. There is also, oh yeah, I'm not allowed to tell you that. Pulled that back. That's what you call a teaser in this business. I will just say this. There will shortly be some news, and I think that if you're a Trump supporter, you're going to like that news. Energy and natural resources. Same day, only 10 a.m. So they're staggered by half an hour. Hearings to examine the expected nomination, of course, Doug Burgum to be the Secretary of Interior. And we don't have to dip in and out of each, or we don't have to follow each one. Doug Burgum, expect to not have any kind of an issue. Doug Collins, one of them, right? Expect not to, one of the lower chamber, the Senate looks down on the House of Representatives, and they always have. They always think they have a House of Lords complex now, which is something the U.S. Senate was never supposed to have. But they have adopted it. They have and it is a real thing. There is what there used to be, what is referred to as a healthy competition or a healthy, it's like school spirit. All right. It's like school or team pride, like a sports team pride. I'm on Team Senate, and they're both very, very important, but Team Senate's just a little bit better, right? And if you're in the House, you're like, I'm on Team House. And if you speak to somebody like a Matt Gaetz, he's going to say something like this: the House is the people's house. This is where the real passion is. We're more connected. We're closer to our constituents. And then when you go to the Senate, you're gonna hear something like this. If you were to talk to John Thune, he would say something like, right, they are closer to their constituents, but that's exactly what makes them so unruly. We're the deliberative body in this Congress. We are where cooler heads prevail. I'm literally repeating verbatim things that I've heard out of their mouths. So there's a healthy competition, but nevertheless, Doug is still one of them at the end of the day, even though, Jeff Sessions was really one of them. He spent years in the Senate with those so-called friends across the aisle, and they still filleted him, and they still spread rumors about how he likes certain kinds of, and what the most despicable thing about it of all is that, of course, he has adopted family, excuse me. So to spread rumors like that, it's just absolutely disgusting. You're insinuating he's touching his own then. That's what Democrats do. There's no rail. There's no over the line. Then, of course, across the hallway in the Homeland Security and Government Affairs building on Wednesday, starting also at 9 a.m., you will get a hearing for Kristi Noem to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. All right, which of course is that committee. Moving on later in the day, well, by that I mean 30 minutes later. This is how the Senate works. You'll get a committee hearing from Judiciary, and they'll look at Pam Bondi for the Attorney General for the Department of Justice, of course. Another half an hour later at 10 o'clock, you're going to get Energy and Natural Resources, and that's for Chris Wright to be the Secretary of Energy. Right at that same time, down the hall in the Foreign Relations Committee, you're going to get the hearing for Marco Rubio, truly one of them, a senator from Florida, to be the Secretary of State. And because he has been actually a committee chair himself, he should fly right through. No problem. He will fly right through. No problem. That same time, again, the Intelligence Committee will hear John Ratcliffe to be the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, and that will be followed by closed hearings in SH 129. We will not be privy, of course, to that, which I don't like at all. I am so sick of the security state mentality. Let's cut the crap. You are not revealing sources and methods. That is almost never the case. Everybody I know who's been in one of these positions, if you know any of them, You ask, like, remember that time that they said they couldn't release this or they couldn't say this in an open hearing because it may compromise sources and methods. Do you have any idea how rare it is for that statement to be true? It's almost never true. It's only that they don't want you to know about something, and it just drives me crazy. I don't like it. As if we're too stupid or something. Like, this security state mentality is a modern creation of Harry Truman. Thank you, Harry. Hearings to examine the expected nomination of Sean Duffy of Wisconsin to be the Secretary of Transportation will be nothing. Commerce, Science, and Transportation also Wednesday. Wednesday, later in the afternoon, the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee is going to hear Russell Voigt to be the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. OMB, baby. And then look, I mean, there's other stuff thrown in there. You have Lee Zeldin on Thursday, right? Eric Scott Turner for Housing and Urban Development also on Thursday. Very busy. Why am I reading all this? This is a unusual pace for the U.S. Senate for confirming presidential cabinets and nominations to the administration. And why is that? I think it's because in 2017, when Donald Trump was elected, he did not have this popularity. They did everything in their power, even in the minority, they being Democrats and what we should more appropriately call rats. My son is right. Republicans against Trump. He's like, I don't understand this rhino thing, Pops. He's like, it's because they're like an elephant. So instead they're a rhino. And what makes a rhino worse than an elephant? Like, I don't get it. If they don't like Donald Trump, you could just call them rats. Republicans against Trump. I'm like, pluralize it. I'm like, it's pretty brilliant, actually, son. It's pretty brilliant, isn't it? It's pretty brilliant. This time he is popular. This time when you ask the American public, do you think Donald Trump is doing a good job during this transition? Do you approve of his cabinet choices? They say yeah. And Republicans, even rats, cannot afford the American public to see them as obstructionists. They just can't. Not this time. I hope we have time to read it too. There's an article in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know if the other one never ran. I need to follow up with them on it, but very similar to something I was arguing. Like, how historic was this election? And I think that if you fall on one side of these arguments or the other, then especially if you fall on the side that it was, and it was kind of a realignment election where Trump really started to end race-based politics and he replaced it with class-based politics, right? So, he's always been talking about us versus them, the ruling class versus the working class, right? No, not even. The ruling class versus the rest of us. Because I got news for all of you people in Loudoun County. You ain't part of them. You're part of the wannabe ruling class, but you're not actually part of the ruling class. Most of you, 90% of you. Unless your last name ends with like Mellon, you are not part of their world. Not really. You may want to be, you may think you are, but you're not. And he's always been talking like that, but it's never actually been the reality. Little by little, you could see him start to chip away at it, as we showed you over and over and over again. Like, this increase in Black vote, this increase in Hispanic vote really should not shock anybody. Because, of course, if you go back to 2016 and you track big data polls results and you track Donald Trump's support among non-whites and how close we were to the election results, you would see that that is, in fact, a long-term trend. That has been going on for a while, even when he was losing, even when his allies were losing. And as is so often the case with these trends, they don't take monumental, or not even monumental, they don't take minuscule, that's the word I'm looking for. They don't take minuscule steps leading up to those trends. They take little steps and then bang, the floodgate opens. Did black voters little by little get to 90+% support for Democrats? No. Pre-Trump, by the way, those days are over. That's not what happened. It was little by little, and then bam, the floodgates opened during the civil rights era. Right or wrong, and it is wrong. Sorry, the white liberal got their way. It is wrong. Because in truth, the white liberal did everything in their power to filibuster that bill. Al Gore's daddy held the record until Ted Cruz came along and tried to stop Obamacare. I kid you not. I believe I'm right about that. Well, I know I'm right about Al Gore's daddy. What I'm talking about is whether or not that record stood until Ted Cruz came around and shut down the government, or maybe Rand Paul beat it with bulk metadata collection. One of those two eventually ended up surpassing Al Gore Sr.'s record with the filibuster, attempting to stop the equality of rights in this country. That's the Democratic Party. Johnson relied on Republicans to get that bill through. So right or wrong, I'm not just speaking history here. And it wasn't some little chop away at the trend. It little by little until the floodgates open and the cascading effect occurs, which we talked about so much during the election. All right, little guy, I know it's small. Go back. By the way, this is very simple. Senate.gov. Be more specific, senate.gov/committees/hearings_meetings.htm. I mean, it's very simple. If you go to the homepage, you'll see it. So if you ever want to know what they're up to, well, that's not really true, but you know what I mean. If you ever want to know what their schedule is, then you could do that. You might notice, by the way, January 15th, 3:30, right? And SD 106 on Wednesday, the Committee on Aging, yes, you heard that correctly, aging, will have hearings to examine improved wellness among seniors, focusing on setting a standard for the American dream. Yo. I don't even know what to say to that. Moving on. Thursday, 10:15 in the morning. We'll go back to Pam Bondi. Shortly after that, actually, we'll cross because that's judiciary. And then Scott's going to have to obviously go before the Finance Committee. Scott Bessent, sorry. And that'll be the start of his trial in front of the committee to be confirmed as the Secretary of Treasury. For those who don't know how it works, once these committees, as they say, examine, right? They hold hearings to examine. They will hold votes. The committee will decide whether or not to advance or table or reject a nominee. If, of course, that nominee makes it through committee, they go to the floor of the U.S. Senate to face a full floor vote. And I know I'm going over ethics, government, actually American national government 101 here. But honestly, some people may not know, so bear with me. Tabled simply means it's there, it's tabled, it's not going anywhere, we're holding it up. Rejected, of course, means rejected. All right. Again, we don't really see. Well, I'm going to hold that back. The vast majority of these people will do fine or should do perfectly fine. Pete Hegseth is the challenge. There are huge protests by veteran groups, and I mean huge in that, certainly in their context. There's been a significant public pressure campaign mounted on Republicans like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, where they're getting earfuls from Navy SEALs, right? And veterans in general. basically saying, how dare you? He's one of ours. You've had a man, and this is a good time to remind people, you've had a man, which was addressed, by the way, at the Senate today. You had a man who doesn't believe in civilian control of the U.S. military, a bedrock principle in this country, in our social contract. You had a man who did not believe in civilian control of the U.S. military being the Secretary of Defense. He's there right now. Oh, and he lied about his physical ailments. Why do I hear my little one? Why do I hear my little one? I thought I heard my little one. All right. I can't get to that yet. I can't run that as a clip yet. I gotta wait. But if he is here, I'm happy to see him. He's home from school. Did I hear my little one or no? What's he doing home so early? Oh man. How you feeling, buddy? You were brave? Of course you're brave. You're always brave when you get shots. What a big boy. What does he want for it? Walmart. Oh, okay. I don't know. What toy do you want? You tell Daddy. I don't know, but I'm more concerned with how your first day of school was and your Lexi. You had a good day? Excellent. Can I get a hug? You mind if I get a hug from my son real quick, guys? I did not expect him to come home this early. Can I get a hug? What? Dude, come here. Come here. Why do you look like Daddy? You look like Daddy. I missed you. Daddy's going to finish working, okay? And then I'll come back. And we'll discuss what you're going to get. What toy you're going to get for being a big boy. Proud of him. He's got I look and he's got like a little mini sweater on like me. You know the sweater that Sean made fun of me for on Battleground last week? He's got one like that. It's a little one. So cute. This little man has better clothes than me, as your children should. Ladies and gentlemen, I like nice clothes, but I'll be damned if my kids aren't going to be pimping before me. You know, my dad did that for me. And that's what I feel like you got to do for your kids, right? Yeah, Pepper's Roro hugs. There's nothing better than Roro koala hugs. We call them koala hugs. You know, koala, because he's still that small. He's the last little one to be that small. My daughter, whom I absolutely adore, is getting to be, of course, a teenager. So I'm going to have to deal with like this 1 to 2 year period where like dad doesn't really know anything that's going on in her life, or not that he doesn't know. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand it. So it's like, mommy, it's all about mommy. But it'll be back to being all about daddy soon. Roro's the minis pundit. That's right. That's right. And actually, my son has shown quite a lot of interest in this, and he's actually turning out to have quite a knack for it. Whatever they wind up doing in life, I just hope they enjoy it, but he's a smart kid, very smart with math. And he just, I think he realizes that what I do is actually a kind of cool application of any kind of calculus is one thing, but he likes statistics a lot. And he likes geometry a lot. I loved geometry. I don't know. I loved it. But, he's learning. He's at an age where that doesn't ever seem like there's going to be a relevant or cool, you want to put it, application for these skills. And now he's realizing that, what are you talking about? Your dad actually does that. And he's just at an age where he's like, he sees a meme of Charlie Kirk on Instagram, and I'm telling you, liberals missed an entire generation here, guys. This is kind of important. And liberals missed an entire generation, and all of his friends. They don't really like Ben Shapiro. which, was like somebody who always tried to go to younger people. They don't like Ben Shapiro at all, but they do like Charlie Kirk. And like they all follow Charlie Kirk on Instagram. And they're like, oh my God, like that's your dad? He knows Charlie. I texted him with Charlie the other day and I'm like, you want to hear something funny? Like I got a bunch of like, 16, 15-year-old boys that are huge fans of you. And they're like, oh my God, you have a cool dad because he's on Charlie Kirk. And I'm like texting him and he texted back like instantly, because Charlie and I are friends. And they were like over the moon. And I'm thinking to myself, because I saw this in the data, like, do you guys remember this conversation? Like, how did they miss the 24 and below? How did they miss those kids? How did they miss those kids? They missed them. Those, like that generation of younger kids, they don't care about media and entertainment and the propaganda they push. They totally miss them. And instead, Instagram got them. Instagram and TikTok and gaming. Like I can't tell you how much politics goes through gaming. Gamergate. Yeah, they don't like Ben Shapiro. They don't at all. In the least. Like none of them. They think his voice is annoying and he just sounds arrogant to them. Like this is still kind of a rebellious generation, or like not rebellious against your parents or anything, just like a rebellious against how things are done because it's not working, right? And it seems so obvious that it's not working. And I think they just don't like those know-it-all institutionals. They just don't like them. So he comes across not like Charlie does. It was like, seems like inquisitive. And when he goes to the colleges, he's having this like legitimate debate and trying to have an honest conversation, even if he kind of comes off with these quibs and messes with you a little bit. It's a different approach than Shapiro, who comes across like, I think I'm super smart and you're not. And that annoys people. Maybe that once went with certain generation, that came before them, but it ain't funny now. And it isn't appreciated now. All right. Moving on. I just wanted to say that. It's first day back for these kids. I was actually kind of worried about him. He's the little one I was worried about. All right. But that's it. That's the week. Okay. And we're going to see how Trump does during that week. Let me take a real quick break. Let me do my little spiel here. And then when I come back, we got some, I didn't even get to look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips left. And I got to do this update because it's messing with the thing. It is. I can see myself glitching a little bit. All right. So, okay. So let's do that. Let's take a real quick break. Let's get it done and out of the way. And then we'll talk JD Vance. And we'll talk about these so-called experts and media types still struggling. Because I think that Trump is going to have an easier time. His cabinet picks are going to have an easier time. Because there's still this shell shock. And they're reverting to the same tactics. They're trying to understand the events, recent events, what happened to their world. And they're just in shock still. And it's not allowing them to mount an effective defense against Trump. Meanwhile, so many of his enemies, or once enemies, are just caving all around him. They're either kissing his you-know-what, or they're failing. They're Trudeauing or Newsoming. They're just killing themselves. Or they're Fetterman anything. You know what I mean? They're pulling a Fetterman. All right, stay tuned. We'll be back. In the meantime, let me tell you, of course, speaking of what are we all talking about here? A new dawn, right? And the administration's coming. Most know that a large sum of people's wealth was negatively impacted by that global coercion. Whatever the severe side effects or experiencing long COVID, check out this natural solution formulated by Dr. Peter McCullough in collaboration with the Wellness Company. And they just leveled up their original detox formula for $30 less. Introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, conveniently consolidated into one capsule. With 4 times the nattokinesia, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinesia is an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects and work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research, offering effective support for your cells repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to fight COVID tyranny. Head to twc.health/TPP for the People's Pundit, of course. Use the code TPP to get yourself 15% off and free shipping. And again, that's TPP. And the link's in the description, of course. We love the wellness company over here. This is not on the schedule, but since I'm a generous and legit good guy who doesn't sell anything I don't like on my program, I'm going to do something here I thought you would like before we get back to this. Who took my knife? Oh, I took my own knife. I set it up in preparation for doing this. So yeah, I'm like super stoked. I love Brickhouse Nutrition. I love Field of Greens. So I thought I would show you what I got as I was getting ready to do the show. And let's see what it is together. Okay. This is what I do. Legit. I'm like, you want some? I'm open to conversation. Send it over. Let me see. All right. Oh, what? They know what we like. They know what we like. Whoa. No. This is strawberry lemonade. This is strawberry lemonade. No. You can't come on camera. You can't come on camera. You will come on camera. Take these. All right, Uncle. Can I try it? No. Can you give me a cup of strawberry? I want to try that. Can I show them real quick again? I'll give it right back. All right. Just kidding. Strawberry lemonade, new flavor. Because I was wondering, why did we get new stuff? We've stuff. New flavor, strawberry lemonade. Look, even I'm probably going to switch from lemon lime to strawberry lemonade. I'm going to find out right now. I'm going to ask Laura to get our little automatic mixer thing that I was telling you guys about. And doesn't it make it taste better?
Well, because it blends it better.
It blends it so much better. And then my typical favorite, lemon lime, right? You have the regular, which my son usually throws in like a body armor or something. And then you have Laura's typical favorite, which, oh no, Laura, this is new. Oh no, it's not. Wild berry? That's the same? I thought it was, yeah, whatever. I thought it was just berry. And then, look, little mixer cups and stuff, Yeah. And a thank you note. Yo, lemon lime. Link's still in the description. She's actually gonna make it for us right now. We're gonna try it. But in the meantime, by the way, I did put their links in the description because I did see the box there. Good companies, such nice people, by the way. Definitely not. It's such nice people. They're just really, really cool people. Let's do it, JD. Let's do it. All right, brother. Nobody. Let me say this. I do this because I love you. Okay, brother. I do this because I love you. All right. This comes from a place of love, JD. This comes from a place of love. All right. JD Vance took some flack. What are those brothers? The Hodgkin twins. I think they started it. Where they jumped in. Look, they're MAGA. They're two, social media influencers. They're on different shows. And look, I think it's smart to have people like this keeping you honest and keeping you right. Yeah, Hodge, right? Yeah, keeping you honest. I really think that's a good thing. And Trump is very good at seeing how his base reacts if he does something wrong. How his base reacts and pulling back, right? It's grounded. It keeps you grounded. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. It keeps you grounded. And this is what happened. I'm going to play the clip and we'll go from there. We'll figure it out. I don't know why locals, you're not updating as quick as I would like you to. It's not you guys. It's the thing. Yeah. All right. Let's just play the clip. He's sitting on Fox News, which JD is going to get you in trouble. I know that everyone's trying to reach those independent old people that are on Fox News that still watch Fox News, even though so many do not. I understand they're so very coveted, but you got to be careful when you go on Fox News. They're going to bait you into something like this. And they did. They absolutely baited you. And I'm not sure they even talked this over, like him and Trump, but not to this conclusion anyway. All right, let me play it, shut up, and we'll come back and talk the rest of it.
There's a process. Where is the line drawn on who will and wouldn't be considered for a pardon?
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
You can catch.
Okay, forget about the rest of that. And again, you see, sorry, this update's kind of causing an issue with anything I feed through the browser. Laura loves, I can tell, her favorite. Your favorite was? Is this mine skis or
No,
your
that's
skis?
mine.
Okay. Can I get one?
No.
That's it.
Hands
That's
down.
it.
That's the best
I'm
one.
sorry, guys. And I like lemon lime.
No. Never.
That's it. That's winner chicken dinner. All right. That is so good.
It doesn't even need a
5 helpings of fruit and vegetables and a
I'll
lemon
take it.
in a strawberry lemonade drink.
I mean, like,
That tastes very good, guys. For like a for a drink like this, you would not expect them to have a way to make it even like, some of those are really difficult to get down. Field of Greens is very good at making that not the case. That's a slam dunk. Like, I like lemon lime. I even like the berry,
I mean, like,
but that's really good.
It gives an aftertaste of like strawberry lemonade.
It gives an
it's not,
aftertaste
like,
that's
pungent,
delicious.
like,
Yeah.
tart.
It's not
but
tart at all. It's
like
the
a very
thing. You're right.
gentle
It's gen-
strawberry
yeah,
lemonade,
yeah.
and it doesn't even taste grassy or anything.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
good.
like it.
It's good.
I like it a lot.
She likes it a lot. All right. So in response, of course, the Hodgkin twins drop out, jump on him, and they say, and let's just put it up and you can see it. Let me just make sure I'm not putting anybody's personal messages up on no, I'm not. All right. So here's my Twitter. I just want to make sure that it's like my personal Twitter. I don't want anyone to see any messages that are obviously in confidence. All right. So the Hodgkin twins go up there and they say video gets release of cops shooting innocent J6 protesters. And JD Vance goes on Fox News and tells the world that only non-violent protesters should get pardoned. Better rethink what you just said, JD. And then they also added that they would, wait, let's go. Let's let it play out.
In there are fighting inside here. We need to get in the house. That's what the criminals are. That's where the criminals are. They're inside the house. It is your duty.
All right, so there it is. You can see it there. And this, of course, escalated slow but surely. All right, JD then goes on to respond to that. Let's back up and see what he said. And I'm going to say what I have to say here in a second, but let's just, catch up here. First of all, this is what JD says in response for those of you who are listening but not watching. First of all, I donated to the J6 Political Prisoner Fund and got roasted, in all caps, for it during my Senate race. I've been defending these guys for years. Second, there were federal informants in the crowd. Do they get a pardon? I don't think so. So here he is saying that, and he did, to be fair, in the interview say there was gray area, okay? The president saying he'll look at each case and me saying the same is not some walkback. I assure you, we care about people unjustly locked up. Yes, that includes people provoked, and it includes people who got a garbage trial, okay? Because I'm going to say two things. The problem with this non-violent versus violent thing that people keep saying is something that Barnes and I researched, obviously. And well, I'm going to talk about the relevance of that. But also that it really doesn't matter if they ended up doing something nonviolent, if the FBI, Malcolm X assassins, and likely Martin Luther King assassins were in the crowd making them get violent. Like, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want him to get in trouble. He's living his own life right now. But Laura and I obviously know somebody, that was right there. And he told us on day one, he was like, Rich, this, bro, we're from the streets. Those were narcs, bro. Those were feds or fed assets, and they were goading the crowd. And then you could see them ready and waiting to pounce once they got goaded. And then also you could see people like Alex Jones with a bullhorn, Jack Posobiec going, don't let them goad you. This is a trap. Like, this is the real scene of J6. And yet you only see the images of the stampeding crowds and, this and then you hear the lies about police officers killed. To this day, by the way, somebody just last week made comments, Kamala Harris, in her speech right before she was forced in the most humiliating day of her life to read out the certified results of the election before the U.S. Senate, as the president of the U.S. Senate being vice president. All right. She was forced to read out the results of her own humiliating defeat in a landslide. She posted a video before she did that, citing those very lies. There were no police that were killed as a result of protesters on January 6th. That is a lie. The Washington Post and others that you still think are credible for some reason, people, some of you out there, perpetrated, and it is a complete and utter lie. There was a police officer who died. He died of a heart attack. His own family has released myriad public messages and statements saying, please stop using Brian's death to advance your political narrative. But that doesn't stop the current, still, please God end it, Vice President of the United States from going out before she takes her sacred duty, right, seriously, and affirms the result of the election. That doesn't stop her from going out there and repeating the lie. Joe Biden has repeated it over and over again. Democratic politicians from the Senate to the House and their media hacks, they have repeated these lies over and over. And none of that should matter just because they labeled somebody violent. It just, somehow that's crazy to me. Of course it's relevant. And the last statement there, that's first and foremost. And he did address that part. But here's the other part he didn't. And he makes a statement that makes it hard for him not to address it. Yes, that includes people provoked. That's the first part of it. And the second part is it includes people who got a garbage trial. Well, then, JD, my brother in Christ, that's every single one of them. That means every single one of them, except for those who were fed assets, who were fake charged and let off. It's basically blanket pardon territory, my brother. I am happy as long as Barnes is okay with it too, which I'm sure it is. You could give him a call. I will be happy to share with you all of the empirical evidence, but it is demonstrably true that every single one of those defendants got a garbage trial or knew they were going to get one and pled out because they A, knew the jurisdiction was corrupt, or B, didn't have the money to defend themselves. Every single one of them was tried in a kangaroo jurisdiction. Even going back to the height of J6 being in the forefront of people's minds when we talked about threats to democracy and when the media narrative was in full swing, when it was at its most persuasive point, the American public was damn near split on it. Whether or not these were insurrectionists or protests that got out of control. Even when they had the advantage, it was never like this huge super majority. It was always a good chunk of Republicans and independents who would say, I don't know, I think this sounds a little bit too much. Even when they were just 40%, 42%. But that didn't last long as facts came out. But even at that point, before those facts came out and before, there was this paradigm shift on this entire narrative, the American public nationwide was fairly split, while Washington, D.C., the potential juror pool of this jurisdiction was damn near unanimous. The most we ever measured was 6% who did 6%, not 16, not 26, not 36, 6%. That was the high for the percentage of people who told us that essentially this may have just been a protest gone awry. When we researched it, how many people, what share of this jurisdiction, the target population, because of course, what is a potential juror pool? It's a voter file. Where do courts get their jurors from? Voter registration. And surveys, one after the other, of that population in that area consistently showed that these people unanimously, almost unanimously decided on these people's guilt of being an insurrectionist from the gate. And as public opinion changed on it in the rest of the country, as more facts came out, as people got to digest more, those opinions did not change in that jurisdiction. That alone makes every single one of these defendants eligible for a pardon under JD's logic, criterion. I'm going to play a clip. It is like 3 minutes long, but I'm going to play a clip from somebody. There's cursing. I'm going to warn you. Okay. Let me do this for people who are like, have the sound off here. Okay. Warning. Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. There is profanity in this video. He is a defendant himself. He gets emotional. He uses profanity. He was very upset with what he heard with JD Vance. His name is Derek Evans. Let's play it.
I don't know about you, but the last 4 years have been absolute hell for me. I've been hunted down. I've dealt with PTSD from January 6th. I was where the worst of the violence was that day. I saved people's lives while I was there from the Capitol Police. Yeah, I grabbed a riot shield and then used it to defend other people's lives. And then you get people grifting on the movement. Okay, all right, everybody's got to make their buck, I guess, off me. And then you get people like JD Vance. He wasn't there. He doesn't know what happened. President Trump telling people to be nonviolent. I'm going to say this once, okay? You expect us to believe that they stole the election, okay? Which is against the law. And then you want us to peacefully and patriotically go there. Okay, so we did. And then we get attacked by these stupid motherfuckers motherfuckers! And now you're not willing to stand with us? After we went through 4 years of hell? Hell! We were locked up. Our fucking bank accounts were drained. Our fucking life ended. The world stood still for us. And you want to make sure that, okay, we don't let the feds through and they don't get a pardon. Okay. All right. I don't give a fuck about the feds. I want to make sure that innocent men and women who were locked up for doing nothing wrong get a pardon. That's what I want. Now, I might look like a fool right now, but I've dealt with 4 years of being called a fucking insurrectionist. Four years. I want my freedom back. I don't want people to look at me like this anymore. And I want the good men to be free. And the good women. I don't deserve this. We should be 100% assured. Instead, you motherfuckers are still playing politics with people's lives. Get it done.
So again, apologize for the profanity, but that's raw human emotion, folks. That's raw human emotion. I don't want to have to go back and play the clip of Rush Limbaugh trying to explain to the clueless idiots who pretend to be political pundits why Donald Trump has a connection with his voters, and not just his vote, why Donald Trump has a connection with the public. John Fetterman just tried to explain this again to a reporter, by the way, hours ago. This, I'm trying to be careful here. This absolutely could threaten that connection. These people did not, play games and quibble when they were asked to show up at their nation's capital and support him. They just did it. And they're going to expect that level of dedication and devotion in return. I understand the case-by-case basis thing. If I was the president, I would probably want to see everybody's case. There's a huge database of it. If you guys remember, Matt Brainerd and I, one of the events, a ton of people from my locals community showed up at the jail with me and Matt Brainerd. And then there were others. And that database has been up forever. There's other databases. Julie Kelly has been just incredible on this story, on these individual kids. Like, my question is, how are you not at this point familiar with the vast majority of them? Like, I don't understand how you're not. These were your political prisoners. Joe Biden had more political prisoners locked up than Vladimir Putin did, and they're your supporters. How could you not know who they are? He said it himself. Grifters are going to grift. You know, I never expected Trump or anybody to go out and like make it their job to police the grifters. Bill, by the way, you've done a good job of that yourself. So was Julie Kelly. And I'm talking about William Shipley, Bill Shipley. He's done a good job of that when he can. He was a lawyer for a lot of them. Whether or not you were happy with the resolutions he got for his clients, kind of irrelevant. But I'm saying this is not that difficult. You could, like Susie Wiles, who's doing a million jobs right now, is supposed to be the chief of staff. Well, whatever. Could easily pick up the phone and call Bill and say, Bill, can you help us sort this out here? Like, this is a 24-hour discussion. Like, I'm not clear. And by the way, it should have been one that should have been it's one that should have been had already. When Matt and I were there, we had families crying to us about the conditions their loved ones were in. They haven't been allowed to speak to counsel yet. And they weren't given discovery. The judge allowed the prosecutor to just lie. They were submitting just completely false evidence. I was wearing they're claiming I was wearing a bulletproof vest and was in tactical gear. That's just simply untrue. We have photos. The photos aren't allowed to be admitted. This one's sick. Can't get his medication. I mean, the stories were endless. Like, it's January 13th, 2025. If I don't know, I guess at this point, if I was president, I would basically say, I don't know if there's maybe I should have Dan or Robert or somebody speak to this. They would know better the law better than me. I'm not a lawyer, but I would immediately just ask my team, is there no way to blanket pardon this thing? And then we can revisit and reinstitute convictions if they are warranted. But as it stands right now, this was a massive entrapment operation, which should never be constitutional in the first place. I don't care if it's entrapment for drugs or some other crime. Like, you have feds doing this to people every day in this country, and that is not even supposed to be allowed. We've let it become regular behavior. They don't have any real criminals to catch. They have to convince people to break the law in order to then arrest them for breaking the law. That is not American. That is not American. I don't know, JD. This is a no-brainer. But if you want, I will show you it. You can look at it yourself. If you're going to be true to that last sentence you just said, then they all have to be pardoned, JD. None of them had a fair trial. None of them had a fair process, period. A fair process, period. They were entrapped from the dick, dude, from the jump. They were entrapped. And let's just forget about that. Let's even let that one go for a second. They are being tried and or convicted or just even charged in a jurisdiction where they had a snowball's chance in hell of getting a fair shake. It doesn't matter if they kick the security guard in the head at the end of the day after that. If you could resurrect John Adams right now, he would say that himself. It is better to have 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man be found guilty. Well, guess what? This is a textbook example of that. And while you're at it, you should abolish the entire jurisdiction, or at least forbid or prohibit any political case being tried in that jurisdiction. They should barely be able to handle a fucking parking ticket at this point. They are totally corrupt, irreparably corrupt. And let me just say this. I'm thinking back to that event I mentioned that some of you from locals went at. And I'm bringing this one up, even though it's not the only one I witnessed this behavior with, but you yourselves were there and you could testify to the truth of it. When these families were telling their stories, those police were laughing and snickering. We were listening to mothers cry and plead their case while the Stasi was lined up to make sure what? Grandma wasn't going to storm the Bastille? Snickering with their wise-ass, arrogant faces. And that entire department and that jail has a very long history of abusing and mistreating the accused, let's call it. It's just that this time it was white people. And sad to say, they get the mistreatment of white people is taken more serious by certain groups. It's true. But they've been mistreating the shit out of black and brown people for decades. Maybe that's why so damn many of them voted for Donald Trump this time. Maybe don't waste their vote. With that in mind, it's 11:23. Are you bringing them back here or just bringing them right there? You got to take them too. Which I really don't want him to.
He's gonna be good.
You guys mind if Ro hangs out with us? I'm sure they don't mind. I just can't chase him around, obviously. You gonna stay here with Daddy, buddy? Well, don't tell him where you're going, because that's his girlfriend. He loves this girl. He's 5. He's 5. But he loves my daughter's friend. She's a cute, beautiful little girl, but she's so nice. She's got the biggest heart, you know? And he loves her. She's so sweet to him, too. It's just so adorable. I said, look out. Give it 13 years. You won't be laughing anymore. The kid's going to be a good-looking kid. Wait, he gets it from his mother. It sure as hell didn't come from me.
Hey, that's an arranged marriage I'll take too.
I'm not saying it. I'm not blowing him out there, but are you leaving? Okay.
Yeah.
Drive safe.
Yes.
None but love for you. Give my girls a big hug and kiss. Tell them I missed the tea. Tea is gossip. Do you know that? I'm starting to speak like a cool kid now. I'm starting to learn how to slay the language. You feel me? You feel me? I know. My friends are all like, oh, just stop. I'm like, listen, I'll be the cool dad. And you be the loser. That's fine. It's all right. All right. So I guess I should take a little bit of a break here. All right. But that's not all, folks. That's not all. It's not all. Here and that. Although I will say this again, we're now revisiting this. I have so much to talk about. If I take a break, I'm going to burn through 3 minutes. We're now revisiting this idea about whether or not vice presidential selections have such a huge influence on the outcome that it would have saved Kamala Harris if she would have picked this guy or that guy over Waltz, and Waltz did her dirty, and Waltz. No, he didn't. It wasn't a benefit to her, but even Josh Shapiro would not have helped Kamala Harris. There were far too many people who told us, yeah, I voted for Josh Shapiro back in 2022. I also voted for Trump or Biden in 20. But guess what? I'm voting for Donald Trump now. Folks, it was like 16% some days in the tracking poll of people who were like those cross voters. That's too much. That's far too much. And it's not just the math of the midterm electorate. It's the math of the midterm electorate plus factoring all of those other traditional only presidential cycle voters, plus the low propensity voters and the no prop voters that Donald Trump did get to the polls. It was too much. Would it have been closer? Sure. He may have lost Bucks County. May have lost Bucks County. May have lost. Probably not. Because that's an area where we saw a unique, universal movement to him. Whether you're in, I always talk about Buckingham, but it's so true because you have the more professional class, Buckingham lower 1, and then the more working class, Buckingham lower 2, which shows you, Donald Trump just not only won the county, he won like all elements of the county. And even though it was kind of narrow, it was still so it was so uniform. It was a uniform swing. So I don't think that Josh Shapiro would have saved her. Gretchen Whitmer was not going to save her in Michigan. He kicked her in Michigan. Like, that is a healthy win for a Republican in that state. It is incredibly difficult for a Republican to win Michigan. So laugh when all these people say it wasn't that big of a win. In all but one state, which was that state, by the way. Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris by a larger margin than Joe Biden beat Donald Trump in those states, even though Joe Biden's national popular vote looked like a mandate. So that is the distortion of the data from the effects of a little something called campaigning. Believable. All right. I do want to get to this. God, I want to get to this. I don't know. It's 3:28. We had 2 takes over the weekend. And we had more than that, but 2 that I think are worth reading. And one's really, one is an interview with someone who has a hot take in this attempt to grapple the outcome of the election. We have Virginia coming up and New Jersey coming up, and the understanding of what happened in 2024 is most definitely going to impact these off-cycle campaign strategies, whether they understand them correctly or not. All right? Whether they have an accurate gauge on it or not, and that's important. Okay. Let's just do it. Let me get through this and we'll be back. Listen, like I have told you dozens of times now, if you've ever thought about wealth protection or just diversification, the folks at Freedom Gold are definitely the way to go. All right. What I like about Freedom Gold is very simple. There is no hard sell. This is not a boiler room. They really are very concerned with you making the right decision and making sure that you have the confidence and to do so when that time comes. All right. I can tell you about all the great deals that they have to offer, but that is the bottom line for me. And speaking of which, for those boiler rooms and even others, reputable ones out there, the buy-ins are ridiculous from an amount that most people simply cannot afford to get in on. All right. 50K requirement, 10K, even is some of the lower ends. And even at Freedom Gold, it's 5, but they reduced it to just 500 for people who watch the People's Pundit. So that's the number right there, 888-279-3592, 888-279-3592. You can call them and still tell them, even though it's ours, the People's Pundit sent you. It's always fun when you do that. But you can also go to the website and check out what other deals you may qualify for at freedomgoldusa.com/rich. There are some really cool ones there. Open a new gold or silver IRA, get a free $100 credit. I mean, it's really cool. Whatever it is that you take advantage of, you're going to get free insurance and shipping on all orders, which is, again, extremely unique, as is this, which I have never heard of. You will get thrown into a prize pool. Basically, it is like a raffle, and somebody is going to win free silver for the month. Okay, so go ahead. One more time with the number 888-279-3592, 888-279-3592, or freedomgoldusa.com/rich, freedomgoldusa.com/rich. All right. Do I want to end with the boring? I think I do, because I think I want to have a lot of fun with this right now. You have some people who are just totally clueless in understanding sometimes it's their role, but sometimes it's their relevance. They have completely lost the plot. They have no idea what universe they're even living in anymore. They don't understand why and how they're not relevant. So it's like, some of them are going to offer information up and they're trying to find out the best vehicle that they can do to speak to the public and keep their audiences and their followings. But then you have others who are trying to take an analytic point of view and trying to figure it out. I'm not even going to show the headline to Fox News about this particular story with one of them because, of course, I mean, you want to talk about catfishing, man. I mean, like, I don't even know what to call it. Jennifer Rubin has not looked like that in 45 years. Okay? I mean, so this is, it's like, let's get the picture of us all at our bests, like graduating high school or something when I was still 135 pounds of solid muscle. Like, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. Please show the current picture. And the reason I say that is because, she doesn't even look like that anymore. She looks very different. And what she looks like would tell you in a heartbeat how she thinks. Okay, so if you look like a feminazi, you're probably a feminazi. And this is somebody who has for years masqueraded as a conservative. All right. She was a conservative as recently as supporting Mitt Romney. She is a never Trumper, and she is a never Trumper to the point where she's one of those never Trumpers who are so anti-Trump that they could no longer hide the fact that they were a fake ass Republican and have always been a fake ass Republican, pretending to like Ronald Reagan and pretending to like elements of conservatism, when the fact of the matter is they are really fanatics who are warmongers, most of them, and in truth, really just hate the American people. They don't believe in their ability to make a rational policy choice, which is, of course, a vote, right? And they believe in big government, and that's it. And in Jennifer Rubin's case, a blogger at the Washington Post, she has humiliated herself for years since Donald Trump has come on the scene. Nothing is beneath her. No flip-flop is too big or too egregious for Jennifer Rubin in the era of Trump. She has hated Jews. She has loved Jews. She has hated Israel. She has loved Israel. She has flip-flopped on everything because no matter what she says, it has to be the antithesis to what Donald Trump is arguing or supporting or championing. So she can be on both sides of an issue in a 24-hour period. And it is never too much for her, never too humiliating, never too hypocritical, never too two-faced, never too sold out, never too much shilling, like a villain. As long as she opposes Trump, in her tiny little mind, she is consistent. So she has left the Washington Post slamming Jeff Bezos. Why? Because Jeff Bezos knows his paper is failing. Because his paper has been allowed to be driven into the ground by idiots like her. Ideologues like her, who are so never Trump, anti-Trump, that they don't care how stupid they sound, that they don't care how hypocritical they sound. Everything I just said that I do not care to repeat. They are driving his business into the ground because they are fanatics. And worse, they are fanatics who think they are smart, but are in fact incredibly stupid. This is an incredibly stupid woman who thinks she is smart, and she's friends with others like Norm Elson, who is also a stupid idiot who thinks he is smart. And they're in fact so collectively stupid that their columns are failing, their works are failing, nobody wants to watch or listen to them, and it's all your fault. Not that you're just too dumb to understand their brilliance, folks. It can't possibly be that they are A, stupid, and B, disconnected. No, it's you. So we're all supposed to care that she left, and I'm only showing this because I'm showing you an example of something very indicative of what, truthfully, most of this group is doing. They are not reflecting. They are not conducting introspection. They're not doing any of the crazy things you would expect some wacko elitist like her would do. I don't know, get naked and jump in a teepee of burning stones or something to sweat out the dumb. Who knows? Will they chant around and sniff patchouli oil like it's Coke or something? Who knows, man? So here is the plan. She's going to leave the Washington Post. I'm no longer blogging for a coward like Jeff Bezos. Who knew it wasn't working? The lies weren't working anymore. Democracy wasn't dying in darkness. Everybody's got your number. Don't you get it? You're the joke. Everybody has your number. Jeff Bezos isn't going to let you drive him off the cliff with you. If you want to Thelma and Louise that shit, go ahead, but you're not taking my Washington Post with you. That's what he said. And you're just too stupid to realize you've been cut loose. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to take Norm with me, and we're going to start something called the Contrarian, and all of a sudden people are going to give two fucks again. No, they're not.
We're going to do law, but we know that any successful pro-democracy movement also has to be very vocal about culture. We'll have a humor column. We'll even have a cooking column, but we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of pro-democracy flavor.
Aren't you stoked? Aren't you stoked to watch and read the content from a dude who looks like he's the guy on the corner with the candy bar? Come over here, kid. I got something for you. I mean, go home. Go enjoy the twilight of your lives with your families. You have lost. Nobody is ever going to care about you again. This is what they just don't seem to get. If Ben Shapiro's struggling with that group, you think you're going to rise above that? They're stuck in this delusion of self-grandeur. They think they're more important than they are. They think things like won't go on without them, like the sun won't rise tomorrow. Chicken Little, the sky will fall. Wormwood's going to come screaming down and take us all out. Here's the truth, Jennifer. The world's going to be better without you. Just go away. It's embarrassing. You're actually going, they go on and on, folks, about we're going to talk about democracy. We're going to talk about, I can't even make that face. We're going to talk about democracy. You're hindering the republic. Don't you see that? You are the threat to democracy. It's you. You ignored the grievances for years of the majority of the public. They rejected you. Even though you were helped by every single lobbyist on K Street. You were helped by every single propagandist firm in that damn town. You were helped with the money backed by the money of everybody on Wall Street. Media and entertainment kissed your ass and pulled every Orwellian trick in the book. Shit. Even friggin' Taylor Swift came out and tried to make a website for Swifties. You got stomped. It didn't work. Or as Megyn Kelly said, you around and found out. The truth is, people like that have been on borrowed time for years. They have no ability to change. It's not in them. This is from, and this is why, and I appreciate he follows me too. This is why I follow Glenn, man. I immediately thought of this clip when I heard that she quit the Washington Post. I immediately heard of this clip. And then, by the way, I swear, after this, we're going to get into two people, and I'm going to try to get through both of these articles, but we're going to get through two people who are trying to actually, whether I agree with everything they're saying or not, at least they're trying to be serious. This is not serious. But I immediately thought of this because, and I mean, I know she looks like, she's got more in common with a pterodon about to be extinct than, the average American voter. But this is years ago. It's years ago. And it's still like this. I have to warn you, this woman has the most annoying voice you're probably ever going to hear. But thank you, Glenn, for finding this for me, because I don't even know how I was going to dig it up. I was trying to Google it, and I got like the whole segment. I didn't want the whole segment. And then I saw that, and I didn't want to clip it using StreamYard. And then I saw Glenn had most of the part that I wanted to show anyway. So I was able just to grab it real quick from him. So hat tip to Glenn for having this up there. I mean, he did the work for us. And I'm talking about Glenn Greenwald, if I didn't say that already. Okay. Warning. There's no foul language in this segment, but there is a decibel level from her voice that is probably going to cause physical pain to your eardrums. And I apologize for that, but it is what it is.
Made excuses for the lock her up comment. You've pleaded with Ted Cruz, and he's really an honest man.
When did I make excuses for lock her up? What did I exactly say?
Let's see. That would have been on. Let's see if I have the date exactly. It would have been on. Lock her up would have been on. In April and also in August. In October, if you remember, Charles Krauthammer came on and had a very vigorous argument.
Wait a minute. What did I say about in April and August? What exactly did I say?
Right. Well, we can go through all of them.
No.
She's so full of shit. Nice try. Did you see what she just tried to do there? She actually didn't have anything to back up what she was saying. She tried to then just lean on Charles Krauthammer.
I want that one.
Which one in particular?
April or August?
Okay. Let's see. In August, let's see. We had comments that you were going to, if somebody is being really dishonest, referring to the press corps, you would strip them of their credentials as well. Doesn't sound like an independent thing.
That doesn't have anything to do with lock them up. You are ill prepared for this interview, Ms. Rubin.
No, I'm not. I have a whole list here.
Ms. Rubin, I have just given you a minute where you've hemmed and hawed. You said you said I justified a comment, lock her up. You can't point to it, and then you pivot to something else.
Yes,
You're ill prepared for this, and this is the point I want to make.
Bill.
This is the point I want to make. Your column and blog are fraud. We have been tough on Trump here, and I'm going to roll some tape.
No, it's not.
Oh,
You
yeah?
play this little montage for all your guests. It shows the three things that you said mean about him.
All right, well, he stops. We don't need to roll the tape. The clip ends there anyway. But he rolls the tape about how he had, and he's known Donald Trump for years. And Donald Trump knew him for years before he ever ran for president in 2016, which is when that clip dates back to, with the lock her up comments. I mean, this woman has been at this for years, all right? She had no evidence to back up what she leveled against Bill O'Reilly, wrote a column blasting him, other people. He had her on to be fair about it, just like Donald Trump, who knew him for years, would know that they would never have him on without asking him at least something tough, or at least saying, come on, Donald, come on, this is what you said here was stupid. What you said there was not right. Like, or whatever. You did say this at one time, and now, you're saying this now, come on, stay straight. Was he like super hard on him to the point of like adversarial beyond the point of a conversation, which is what the media was doing to him back then, and still does, even though they're trying to juggle now a little bit. I think they're trying to figure out how to juggle it a little bit, but back then it was just pointless television. You could watch an interview with Donald Trump and they would be so adversarial, it was to the point of not even not even making a legitimate interview. Like it was just annoying. And I remember when Don Smith sat down with Donald Trump, it was like, I don't know, 15 minutes of refreshing conversation, because Don was like pulling at him as a conservative. Don was like trying to like, hey, look, you did bring up this about immigration. You did say this about Planned Parenthood. Like, and they had a conversation, and it wasn't, I don't know, there's adversarial, and then there's above, like just above beyond the pale. And if you weren't doing that, then you were soft on Trump. If you were giving him a fair shake, you were soft on Trump. If you were being polite yet challenging, you were soft on Trump. It's the same attitude that they took toward me. It's like, if I didn't grossly overstate Hillary Clinton's support, then I was a Trump pollster and I was inflating Trump's numbers, even though I was right. Right? I mean, this is same mentality, same mindset. And then you have some serious people who are legitimately trying to figure it out. And one's from the left first. The other one I want to say is kind of like I mean, he's an academic, so it's different. But yeah, let's go to Vox first. All right, so Matthew Iglesias is certainly somebody the left listens to. And there's an interview with him, and he's talking about, how he views the last decade of Democratic politics in the era of Trump, basically, right? And how they handled it even before Trump, because you got to understand, and I think he does, that I'm not sure he understands it fully, but many of these guys do understand that there is something that's often overlooked. And that is, you cannot just simply say the last 8 years, or even the last 9 years, including the campaign. You really have to go back 10, 15, 20 years to see why Donald Trump appealed to people. And it was Bushism politics, that kind of republicanism that abused the trust of the majority of the country, that was a terrible steward of the economy and cared more about illegal wars and killing and maiming innocent people who had nothing to do with 9/11 under the guise of WMDs than they did about a financial crisis that would wreck the middle class, destroy the lives of all of those non-white voters who gave them and him a chance. Disproportionately so. Nobody has done that well in Clark County since the Great Recession as a Republican as Donald Trump did this year. Many of those people who were around during that have not voted Republican since the last time they voted for George Bush. They're older now, and they remember. The financial crisis happened under his watch, and he ruined it for us. Now, you could argue it happened because of the Community Reinvestment Act, and federal government held a gun to the head of the banks and said, you must lend to these people. And also there's, the banking and security industry in general decided, I have to roll these things up. We have to put these things into other securities to make them higher rated, keep the market stable, and it all came crashing down, of course, because it was a house of cards. It was a scam. But he didn't do anything to stop it. And then we roll into the era of Obama, who, legitimate criticisms. This war is stupid. This war is the war that was the good war, or the just war, as Obama used to refer to it. Afghanistan. This is the war we should be fighting. We got way off track. And look, because we were distracted, so many people are hurt economically now and are devastated, and their American dream is gone. I'm going to come in and fix it. And they gave him a chance. Many Republicans gave him a chance. Voted for him. And he was full of shit. Barack Obama didn't give a damn about anybody but himself. He's got a huge house in Martha's Vineyard now. He didn't help a single Hispanic family who lost their home. As it turns out, those shovel-ready jobs weren't so shovel-ready after all. Remember that? While laughing, he thought that was funny. Another almost $1 trillion later. And this bitterness just began to build. And this feeling that nobody cares about me began to build. And Donald Trump spoke to them. And unless you understand that that happened before Donald Trump ever decided to run for president, you cannot understand why Donald Trump is yet again the president of the United States, and he's effectively the president right now. Let's get real. I mean, Team Biden is listening to him actively right now on policy towards Iran. Have the past 10 years of Democratic politics been a disaster? A conversation with Matthew Iglesias. In the wake of Donald Trump's victory last November, Matthew Iglesias published a manifesto imploring the Democratic Party to re-embrace, quote, common sense. Sound familiar? Did we not use this term and speak about this in the first segment when referring to the meeting between Senator John Fetterman and Donald Trump? Specifically, in his slow, boring newsletter, Iglesias called on Democrats to redouble their party's commitment to economic growth, to honor the electorate's moral values, reject identity politics, abandon language policing, and moderate on a wide assortment of issues. Many moderates have since rallied behind Iglesias' vision for making the Democratic Party. I'm going to stop right there. That's not true. There are no moderates. There is a small window right now for Democrats to do that right there, which is, of course, to pretend they still have moderates and to pretend that they can do those things and still be honest. They don't believe in any of that shit anymore. Abandon language policing? Why? They don't believe in the First Amendment anymore. Reject identity politics? That is core to their worldview. Honor the electorate's moral values. They don't have moral values. They have gay sex in the Senate conference room and tape it for everybody to see. But they still have a window to bullshit their way back into it. Progressives, meanwhile, have made a priority of trying to discredit his critiques of democratic governance and electioneering. To both factions, the debate over where the Democratic Party goes from here, in no small part, is a debate over whether Iglesias is right. Earlier this week, I spoke with Iglesias, who co-founded Vox, about his indictment of Democratic policymaking. By the way, has this very website been a platform for moderate Democratic thinking? No. This platform has celebrated outward displays, vulgar displays of sexuality to throw in the face of traditional value, heterosexual men and women. This website has on TV and because there's another branch of Vox, they have highlighted they have served as a vehicle for the Russia-phobia that has taken hold in this country since they failed to figure out how to deal with losing in 2016, which they also did not recognize. See what I'm saying? This very article is an affront to the truth because they themselves are not moderate. It's the argument I have with Rui Teixeira as well. You're arguing something that does not exist, Rui. You're arguing something that does not exist. They cannot go back to that because they don't believe in it anymore. This is a party who wanted to stuff people who didn't have vaccines into internment camps. This is a party who championed and celebrated the use of novel legal theories that nobody has ever seen or heard of before to throw their political opponents, including a former president of the United States, into prison. They don't believe in it anymore. So when somebody brings up this argument, it is very fair to say, let me ask you, What is moderate in your view? Because let's take the transgender situation an issue. Huge benefit to Donald Trump in this election. Americans do not believe that transgenders are a victim group who are suffering from some form of cruel act of God and that they're civil rights heroes. They believe they're delusional and that they're mentally ill. They are not ready to see a biological man beat the shit out of a woman on television and get a freaking medal for it. To the vast majority of Americans, that's called woman beating. When did the act of beating women become an Olympic sport? Can you say that at their cocktail parties? No. You not moderate. You have no hope of being moderate. Let's go back to it. Because I want you to understand their idea of moderate is very different than yours and everyone else's on planet Earth. In your view, what are the biggest political mistakes of the Democratic Party has made, that they have made since the Obama era? And he says the big picture thing is, starting in the 2016 campaign and continuing afterwards, Democrats talked a lot about the idea of Donald Trump as an outlier threat to the country. But in practice, they treated his flaws as an opportunity to be more boldly and aggressively progressive across a whole bunch of fronts. And they got some mileage out of that. And they almost won in 2016 at a time when the thermostatic public opinion had been against them. They did win in 20. They lost, but it was narrow in 24. Holy shit. Bro, can you count? In all but one battleground state, Donald Trump beat Joe Biden beat Kamala Harris by a bigger margin than Joe Biden beat him in 2020. Can you count, my guy? But what we've seen with Trump getting steadily more popular over this time is that you've run out of string on that play. And I think need to come back to the reality that Obama-era Democratic Party politics was where a robust national political party can be. Okay. But Barack Obama pretended to be for... Barack Obama ran twice against gay marriage. Oh, yeah. He did not run either time as a neoliberal or a neocon. Neither time. I don't remember him having transvestites to the Easter egg hunt wearing nothing. Remember last year's Christmas? Not this Christmas, but the one before that? Remember that winter wonderland? Holy shit. I mean, like, how do you think you're going back from that? And here's another thing. It's a lie. It was a lie. You think Americans don't know it was a lie? You can't go rush back to Obama for help here. Where specifically do you think, and I'm glad he asked this, that Democrats got too left-wing during the Biden years, as if they didn't get too left-wing during his time? I mean, I find that to be actually rather tone deaf. I think that the Green New Deal concept made a lot of sense as an effort to square reducing climate change with addressing people's material economic needs. Well, then I cannot help you. If you really think the Green New Deal made sense to the American public, or you think it made sense, and somehow the American public is at fault for not understanding how it makes sense, then I can't help you. Cannot help you. Americans do not believe and are no more concerned about climate change than they were 20 years ago. You're not covering any ground. And you're sure as hell, you were sure as hell not going to get them to prioritize your fanatical ideas over their economic needs. But it was designed for a specific moment in time. The premise of a Green New Deal is that you have a depression, and so you're going to address people's depression-induced material problems with a new deal. And then you're going to make that new deal green. So it all makes perfect sense, except there wasn't a depression. I understand what he's saying. I mean, I think actually there his point is well taken. However, that's what my old professor and writer and author used to call an inaccurate historical comparison, which is usually typically made intentional, actually. The New Deal was not popular. Oh, right. Roosevelt's New Deal was not popular, and it was vastly, vastly larger than what we think it is today when we think of just simply about Social Security, or what they used to refer to back then as old age insurance. That's all that simply remains of the New Deal. In fact, Democrats got their ass kicked in the midterm elections as a rebuke to the New Deal and Roosevelt's effort to pack the court because he didn't like election outcomes or public opinion or opinions from the court, saying he is a tyrant who continuously tries to usurp the Constitution. It was not popular. Certain elements of the New Deal were popular. So you're looking for a historical comparison to be made here when you're not even understanding that the New Deal, the new Green Deal, is not popular, just like, in fact, the New Deal of the Roosevelt era was not popular. And I think a lot of around criminal justice and immigration enforcement, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Immigration is, of course, a huge deal. Has proven to be pretty much a total dead end. The desire to bring more humanity to these systems is understandable and correct. All right, but actually, the problem is the humanity issue for Democrats is against them when you're talking about illegal immigration, because all you're really doing is fostering illicit markets. You're enabling illicit markets. All right, it's 4:04. Damn, I'm running out of time. I just got to say real quick, because there was one more thing I just wanted to get to, but I am running out of time. Where is it? Now this is criminal justice. This is it, I think. It's just so long. He's going on and on about how to win back the defectors, and of course, they bring back Bill Clinton. But the Bill Clinton experience is instructive here. He did certain things in the 92 campaign that I think progressive intellectuals found distasteful at the time and continue to find distasteful today. But he was trying to drive salient shifts in how the Democratic Party was perceived, and it worked. I think that when people try, they can shift things. Tester, he brings up, simply didn't understand he lost. Here's the problem. Bill Clinton didn't believe in that. His wife was the ideologue. He was not. So it was authentic when Bill Clinton did it. Would it be authentic now? I'm not sure. Who? Maybe that's an exercise. I'll give you some homework. Who could be their Bill Clinton? Because the Obama nostalgia exists on the left. It does not exist in the American public. Like, yeah, the dude was cool, but he sucked as a president. That's what most Americans will honestly tell you. Even the ones who like him will say, cool, man, I like no drama Obama. But he was a shitty president. Who's going to do it now? Is it slick old Gavin Newsom who can't forget about put out, who can't prevent forest fire disasters because he can't even take on the base of the party? Is he going to be the one to shift it back to the center when he can't even get their green fanatic environmental groups under control over there? And now LA is burning to the ground. Like, who else is going to do it? I don't know. I don't know that there is an answer for that, but I do know this. Sometimes the best thing for a party is for them to lose. And then they build back up from the ground up. When Romney lost in 2012, it took Republicans some time to get back together, but they realized once they saw it, they realized what they needed, and that man came out of nowhere. I don't think Democrats, Matthew, same goes for you. You're not going to find your savior in the places you think you're going to find it. Just like Republicans didn't. They got their savior in the least likely place. The Celebrity Apprentice guy, the guy with his name in gold, a billionaire from Queens, New York, is going to be the standard bearer for the conservative base of the Republican Party. And he just got more popular with conservatives as time went on. All right. We got to kick rocks. It's Monday. I will say this. I'm going to go right now and I'm going to go look at the last of the comments on book club. I saw immediately 2 regulars who said no. If both my readers who help me read also say no, you know who you guys are. Or at least one of them, because I don't want to leave anybody behind. Then I guess we won't do it. But I'm going to bring this up again because I would like to try to make that up. It's not a short book. So it is my, it's not my fault, but it is on me. I didn't realize back to school stuff and all the stuff they needed was going to be that damn long. And it was. This one needed that. This one needed this. And that's just parenting. And you can't avoid it sometimes. But I've also thought long and hard about another day we could even do book club on. We go to church on Sundays. And then it's difficult because, right from church to, hey, kids, did you need anything from Target for school or whatever it may be? Like, so, and then I always try to like to take them like IHOP or something and get them pancakes after church. And it's like kind of a family thing. And that's fine. But I'm wondering if there's not another day we can do this that would be good for everybody. Maybe it's survey time again. Last time I did this, it was survey time. We did it. But I may ask you to just put your name. If you're a local supporter, just put your name, who you are, because I want to make sure, we don't miss any of the original group. All right. And if it's not possible, it's not possible. And we'll keep rolling with it. But I do kind of feel like there's a lot of holidays that fall on it. One of our original members is, often missing some because of religious holidays. We're going to have Easter coming up. So I'm wondering if there's a better way to do this. I'm open for suggestions, guys. If you want to hit me up on locals and say, hey, Rich, what about a Wednesday at X number? Just remember, I got Battleground Live at 5 on Wednesdays. That's the thing Sean and I just do. Although it's possible. Well, I'll wait. I'm not going to say that. Fridays. I'm taking your Friday night from you. I don't know. But I'm open to it. So just hit me up while you're there. All right. It's 4:10. I won't hold you much longer, right? So hearings coming up starting tomorrow. We're going to do little short things about them, little short skits, even if they're just on locals and YouTube members. So remember that. All right. And we'll pack it all in as much as we can. It's going to be a very busy week. Very busy week. Also, right. Didn't get into it. I'm telling you, it's going to roll up on election season. Sure as hell is faster than you think. That poll with Mason-Dixon was super close. Remember, they have a very, very, not just them, it's not them, it's everyone. Notorious track record of overstating Democratic support in Virginia. Virginia was closer in the presidential race than people thought. And of course, Glenn Youngkin, if it wasn't for me and Robert Cahaley, everyone would have had Glenn Youngkin down, except for that one outlier Fox poll that came out last minute that showed Youngkin up by 8. It was only Robert Cahaley and I who had Glenn Youngkin up. So right now, I think it's still an exercise in name ID. And that's why you can see Sears beating everyone but Spanberger in that poll, Abigail Spanberger, because Spanberger was a congresswoman from Virginia's 7th district, which is close to Nova, and people knew who she was and they recognized her name. And I think she's got a higher name ID at this point. And it, of course, you know, it still is a Democratic state, or at least a Democratic leaning state, although it has had an influx of new state to state migrants. So that has certainly changed the outcome, the makeup of the state a little bit. But sooner than you think, I think it might be cool to dip in there, because if we leave it to the Monmouth poll and we leave it to the Washington Post, these are awful polls. They're going to do awful work. All right, so stay tuned on that. We'll discuss that when the time comes. I don't think I'm missing anything else, but if I did, you'll see me biatch about it on X, all right? I hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget, if you liked it, don't forget to like the video, share it far and wide, subscribe on YouTube, Locals, Rumble. If you're on Rumble, don't forget to give it a little plus, a little like, and sign up. If you're on YouTube, take a second to mosey to Rumble and do the same thing there. The best place, however, folks, is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. Brickhouse, by the way, if you're going to get that strawberry lemonade, TPP, don't forget, TPP. Link is in the description for all of it anyway. It's delicious. I ate it while we were watching. I mean, I drank it when we were watching a clip. I got one for myself because Laura was making it look so good, and it was. And I mean, it's part of my everyday thing, and I think you would enjoy it too. All right, 412. I'm going to shut up and get out of here. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Be good. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And as Laura always says, deuces. Actually, it's more like deuces.